All right, let's continue with this handout on CVP. We're on question 3. It says a company has a margin of safety of 25%, a contribution margin ratio of 30%, and sales of $1 million. We have 3 things that we need to determine. Letter A says, what is the break-even point in sales dollars? B, what is operating income? And C, let's see here, if neither the relationship between variable costs, okay, we're going to come back to that one. So let's go ahead and look at A. And it says, again, what is the break-even point in sales dollars? Okay, so we know that sales are $1 million because we've been provided that information free of charge. So we're simply going to multiply that by 1 minus the margin of safety percentage, which is 25.25. So if we were to take $1 million times 0.75, which is our answer here, we're going to come up with $750,000. And that makes sense if we think about it, because that would, if our sales are 1 million and our break-even point is 750,000, that means there's a $250,000 spread between these two numbers, and 250,000 is 25% of 1 million. Okay, but what they're asking for is break-even point in sales dollars, and it is $750,000. Okay, let's look at B. And it says, what is operating income? Okay, so let's think about this now. What we really want to do here is we want to look at 2 figures. We want to look at our margin of safety in dollars, and then we also want to look at our contribution margin ratio, which is 30%. So if we were to, we've already said that if our break-even point is 750 and our sales are 1 million, that means that our margin of safety in dollars must be $250,000. We strictly multiply that by 30%. And if we do that, we should come up with operating income of $75,000. And that's all there is to it for letter B. Now let me read over this C here. It says, if neither the relationship between variable cost and sales nor the amount of fixed cost is expected to change, how much additional operating income can be earned by increasing sales by $110,000. So yeah, so if our variable cost per unit are the same, fixed costs don't change, that's a concept called relevant range that we're going to get into a little bit later. All we really have to do here, because they're asking us for, it says, how much additional operating income can be earned. So for C, all we have to do is take the figure that they've given us of the 110,000 and multiply it by the contribution margin they've already provided us. And if we do that, we're going to come up with an answer of $33,000. And that is our final answer. Bear with me one moment. Okay. Looks like we have a concept question next. It says, Thompson Company manufactures and sells cookware. Because of current trends, it expects to increase sales by 15% next year. If this expected level of production and sales occurs and plant expansion is not needed, how should this increase affect next year's total amounts for the following costs? Well, let's look at something here real quick. When they talk about plant expansion not being needed, what they're essentially saying is our factory is going to be the same size. You know, we're probably not going to have to buy any additional equipment and so forth. So let's read the question. Let's see here. Is there a question? How should this increase affect next year's total amounts for the following costs? Variable cost, fixed cost, and mixed cost. Now, we've not spent much, if any, time on mixed costs, but I will tell you that certain costs have both a fixed and variable component to them. An example of that might be something like utilities cost, where if we don't turn the lights on at the factory at all, we have, like, say, for example, a $500 minimum charge, and then for every kilowatt we use above zero, we get charged, whatever that cost is, 50 cents, whatever. So the $500 in that example would be fixed. The 50 cent per kilowatt charge, and I have no idea if that's realistic for electricity or not, would be the variable component. So that is what we call a mixed cost, also referred to as a semi-variable cost. So if we think about this, sales are going to increase by 15%. So cost of goods sold, given that everything else is basically the same, should also increase by about 15%. Cost of goods sold is a variable cost, so we need to look for an answer that has increase, and C and D do not have increase in the answer, so that leaves it between A and B. So let's look at A. It says increase for variable costs, increase for fixed costs, and increase for mixed costs. Well, the variable cost is yes, and mixed cost would actually be a yes as well, but fixed costs would not go up. So our answer is going to be B. Our variable costs are going to go up, and if we think about this, utilities are part of factory overhead, and I just told you that those were a mixed cost, so those should increase, but there would be no change in the fixed cost component here.